HIMARS are doing serious damage to the Russia's military in Ukraine. Known as HIMARS, the M1140 High Mobility Artillery Rocket System is a highly mobile rocket launch system, essentially a rocket pod attached to an M1140 Army truck. Capable of firing either 227mm GMLRS rockets or 610mm ATACMS missiles. The HIMARS system is an affordable way to bolster an army's firepower. While developed by the United States and deployed mainly in the Middle East, the HIMARS is currently making a name for itself in the Russo-Ukraine War. The Ukrainians, who received upwards of 16 HIMARS systems from the Americans, have used the weapon to successfully destroy Russian targets. And now, the Ukrainians are building decoy HIMARS to absorb Russian attention and artillery. Stay tuned for more information. Hello guys, and welcome to our channel, Fighter Jets in Action. Please subscribe and like this video, we'll love for it. Ukraine has fielded a fleet of fake high mobility artillery rocket systems, or HIMARS, to trick Russia into firing its precious long-range missiles at worthless decoys. Dan Parson wrote for The Drive. Those decoys draw Russian attention and fire away from the 16 HIMARS system currently on the front lines in the Ukraine. According to the Washington Post, the wooden HIMARS decoys have attracted as many as 10 Russian caliber missiles, as the Russians generally rely on unmanned systems to find and identify targets for their artillery. The wooden HIMARS have been particularly effective. A decent decoy, situated and camouflaged as an actual HIMARS would be deployed, is almost indistinguishable from the real thing to the Russian targeting drones and satellites that provide information to the Russian warships carrying cruise missiles in the Black Sea, Parson wrote. The Ukrainian decoys are made out of wood, but can be indistinguishable from an artillery battery through the lens of the Russian drones, which transmit their locations to the naval cruise missile carriers in the Black Sea. The Russians are eager to strike HIMARS systems because the HIMARS system has been so effective at destroying Russian targets. To the Russians, the HIMARS is like a VIP target, a Ukrainian official told the Washington Post. The Ukrainian use of decoys as an example of asymmetrical tactics the outgunned, outmanned military relies on to survive against the larger, stronger Russian force. In addition to the decoy HIMARS, in recent weeks, Kyiv's operatives have blown up rail and electricity lines in occupied Russian territory, detonated explosives inside Russian arms depots, and assassinated suspected collaborators, the Washington Post reported. But Ukraine is still highly dependent on the Western-supplied conventional weapons like the HIMARS. The length to which the Ukraine has gone to protect the Western-supplied rocket systems underscored their importance on the battlefield, the Washington Post reported. The systems are credited with blunting Russia's advance in the east and south by giving Ukraine the ability to strike from 50 miles away, laying waste to hundreds of high-value Russian targets, including supply lines, arms depots, and logistic and support hubs. Russia themselves have used decoy and deception tactics. They even have a word for such techniques, maskirovka. Russia, for its part, has used inflatable decoys of S-300 SAM missile batteries. The most famous example of maskirovka comes from the World War II, when US warplaners created an entire ghost army, complete with fake tanks, trucks, and airplanes in an attempt to fool the Nazi Germany. In Ukraine, Russia is claiming to have destroyed double 4 Ukrainian HIMARS. The claims are likely hyperbolic propaganda. However, as the US has only confirmed the shipment of 16 HIMARS systems. For Ukraine, protecting their existing HIMARS systems will be vital in the effort to keep Russia at bay. HIMARS and MLRS are great, but Ukraine needs more M1140 artillery guns. What Ukraine truly needs. While more modern and long-range weapon systems, especially HIMARS and MLRS, have captured most of the conversation about U.S. military support for the Ukraine, the role of cannon artillery cannot be underappreciated. It's understandable that these big-ticket items get the most attention because of their range, accuracy, and strategic importance. But despite the never-ending debate about which missiles the U.S. should or should not send, the DoD has made clear that the U.S. will likely retain the status quo of the missile and rocket support, remaining hesitant to provide longer-range weapons. Additionally, while Ukraine's counteroffensive has been extremely successful, the war is far from over as the DoD foresees a fall of the tough fighting before a winter stalemate. Undoubtedly, the effects of the HIMARS and MLRS in shaping operations proved vital for the counteroffensive to be as successful as it has been. But the war has moved into a new phase, a phase where Ukraine possesses the momentum and initiative in an offensive where its maneuvering forces are fighting to close in on and destroying the army. The mission of the artillery is to enable those maneuver forces to do just that, not simply to flex muscle by destroying long-range targets. As it has throughout the war, U.S. support should adapt to meet the needs of the Ukrainians. In this new phase, cannon artillery will be vital in providing these maneuver forces with fire support they need. It's important to remember that the Ukrainian army is largely modeled after NATO armies, namely the U.S., which currently utilizes brigade combat teams to conduct large-scale ground operations as a joint team of varying units. Further, while the U.S. Army is looking to move away from the BCT model in favor of returning to divisions and corps to meet near-peer threats, you fight with the army you have, not the army you want. In the U.S. Army, fire support for BCT is rarely provided by HIMARS or MLRS. Instead, in most cases, it comes from lighter, towed cannon artillery pieces. While HIMARS and MLRS may be division or even corps-level assets, under the discretion of a general, howitzers like the M1140 and M1140 are the BCT's organic assets. This allows the Field Artillery Battalion to be integrated into the larger brigade's mission and operations, providing fluid and timely fire support to its assigned maneuver battalions and companies. In quick and decisive offensive operations, where Ukrainian forces are constantly adapting to the Russian defenses, these cannon artillery batteries provide the firepower to those maneuver units rely on. This brings us to the U.S. Army's primary artillery piece and light infantry brigade combat teams, the M1140. The 11-9ERS don't pack the punch or have the range of the M777A2, but that's for good reason. First, they are light enough to meet the needs of light infantry units, retaining high mobility related to an IBCT speed and tempo. Likewise, their relatively short range, 14.5 kilometers or 19.5 kilometers with RAP, rocket-assisted projectile, meets most of the needs of the light infantry units that rarely outrun their artillery support like armor or mechanized units. Most importantly, what they lack in range and effect radius is made for with an exceptional rate of fire of 6 rounds per minute for 2 minutes or 3 rounds per minute of sustained fire. Finally, the 11-9ER has a comparable digital fire control system to the M777A2, which increases capabilities both in terms of speed and accuracy. These capabilities allow 119 ER batteries to in-place, fire, and displace efficiently and quickly. This is crucial in providing timely and accurate fires that meet the needs of the Ukrainian maneuver forces. For those readers who keep feeling lost when they hear combined arms operations all over the cable news, this is a key component, integrating effective and mobile fires with maneuver forces. Combined arms are especially important when facing an enemy like Russia, which has an entirely different doctrine of warfare. one based around artillery instead of manure, and outguns and outranges even most NATO artillery. Those Russian capabilities and doctrine, which treats artillery as the god of war, means that Ukrainian artillery needs to shoot quickly and displace quickly before Russian artillery has the chance to counterfire. And since Ukrainian units can take quick and effective Russian counterfire for granted, meaning that they can't spend too much time firing from the same position, their shots need to count when they fire. The 119ER is the ideal weapon system to meet that challenge in terms of mobility, survivability, and capability. While the M1119 would meet many needs of the Ukrainian forces, it would also less of a cost to the US, which has depleted many of its reserves by providing longer range and more modern weapon systems and ammunitions. M1119S and the accompanying 105mm ammunition, on the other hand, do not pose the same threat to the America's own defense needs. Many Army units have already transitioned from M1119, seeking longer range fires and an armament more centered on the rockets and missiles. While this means that the US has more M1119S in storage, it also means that providing 105mm ammunition is less valuable than the 155mm ammunition of the M777 and M109, which are still very much in service. As the US Army seeks to shift and expand its artillery capabilities to meet near-peer threats in Asia and Europe, meaning moving away from the M1119, it can also meet the needs of a crucial partner in Ukraine. So far, the US has committed to providing 20,055mm howitzers with 180,000 rounds of ammunition. We can and should do more. And the US is not the only country that has provided 105mm howitzers to the Ukraine. British L119 105mm cannons have already proved effective on the battlefield and superior to the Soviet-style D-30 that previously served as the light Ukrainian howitzer. Likewise, Lithuania has handed over some of its own 105mm howitzers. The various 105mm pieces of other NATO nations have joined them. While providing Ukraine with necessary HIMARS and MLRS is vital, it's equally important that these big-ticket items don't distract from the other needs. Ukrainian needs more than what captures headlines. Warfare is all-encompassing. It's not solely waged in the form of high-level targets and strategic strikes on bridges. At this very moment, Ukrainian soldiers across the front are engaged in direct combat. It's surely a brutal and horrific fight. The average Ukrainian infantryman will likely to have the protection of HIMARS or MLRS. Nor will he or she probably see its impact. That's for the generals and intelligence officials. Well, that's it guys for today. Hope you liked this video and subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for the most recent updates on fighter planes.